Good morning, Facebook. This is Pastor Mario, pastor of Eustis, Presbyterian Church, and today we are beginning our week 3 of our study on the science of stress and what the Bible says about it. As a reminder, if you're just catching up with us, you can go to our website, fpceustis.com/education, and you will be able to find some of the previous weeks of our conversation here, because that is what this is. It's a conversation. Let me make a note here to say that the articles that we are reading do not hold 100% of the truth. What they do have is a point of view, a valid point of view. I think we need to pay attention to them. I think we need to analyze them. I think we need to compare the knowledge that they are saying from one thing to what we know. But that's not precisely what this conversation is doing. We are not simply analyzing articles. We are going back to the scriptures and actually considering and affirming what God says on each subject that draws my attention. Obviously, if you have questions, please make sure that I see them, as you can make comments and draw questions, and I will slow down to answer and address those. Today, we are talking about handling stress. In the first week, we talked about defining stress. The second week, we talked about understanding stress. Today, we're going to be talking about handling stress. How do we begin to handle the stress? And we will begin just in a few minutes. I wanted to make sure that you knew about the articles. Today, we are reading several articles. We are reading Finding Balance, Simple Ways of Managing Your Mood, a 4-legged source of relief, and Embrace the Pressure, which is, I would say, is one of my favorite articles of today. You can find them, again, on our website. We do not claim copyright knowledge on them. What we do is that we share them to the public, and obviously they will be there until we are allowed to do that. That being said, let me do maybe a recap on what we have learned about stress. What we have learned about stress is that stress is much like sin. Is a natural human condition for us to be as sinful creatures and for us to experience stress. It's something embedded in our DNA so deep that we cannot get rid of it. We need help dealing with it, and we need God to get rid of our stress and our sin. In that way, stress and sin are alike. There's nothing you can do to get rid of it. You do not have the power as a human being to get rid of stress, and you do not have the ability to get rid of sin. There are things that you can do to tame your stress and to tame your sin. There are things that can help you develop your life more as a faithful human being and more as a faithful Christian. There are things that will push you further into a better relationship with yourself, with your self-esteem, with the work that you have to do, and in reality, understanding how God is intertwined in all this. But you cannot get rid of it. Now, walking away from the idea that sin and stress are alike a little bit, we have to now engage the fact that stress is one thing and anxiety is another. This is what we learned in the first week, defining stress. Stress is a natural reaction of the body to help you. Let me say that again. Stress is a natural reaction of the body to equip you as an institution, as an organism, with your heart rate and your blood pressure and your brain all attuned in the thing that is stressing you. The problem with the stress is that if you don't know how to handle your stress, it becomes anxiety. Anxiety is the accumulation of stress, according to these articles. Anxiety is the accumulation of stress and you're not giving them an outlet. Obviously, God talks throughout the scriptures about how he is our helper. I mean, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible is Psalm 23. And it talks about how the psalmist, David, is reminiscing his previous life and how God has always been with him, helping him with the stress, not enabling the stress to become anxiety. I also am aware, understanding the stress is that some people understand stress and anxiety as being the same thing, because they are not equipped to handle it, either of them. There is something called emotional intelligence. Some people never paid attention to develop their tools to deal with the stress. In fact, some people try to walk away simply from stress by just walking away from everything that creates stress, meaning that their body is not prepared to handle any kind of stress because they have walked away from all things that give them stress. The articles are saying that that is not a really good way to live. The scriptures are saying that it is not that we are going to be facing our own problems, but that God is the one that enables us to deal with our problems. And that is how we get to here, handling stress. The first article that we are going to be talking about today is called Finding Balance by Emily Joshua. The tagline of the article is a pretty good one, I think. Exercise, nutrition, medication are among the ways we can guide the body and mind to better handle our day-to-day stress. I want you to pay attention that it doesn't say that those are the only ones. The article is opening, telling you that there are some particular ways to handle stress. Exercise, nutrition, medication are among the ways. That's very important. All right, so as we begin with the article, we see a lot of technical information. If you read this article, it reads like a health magazine. They give you percentage and researches. And those sort of things are good to know. Again, I'm not going to be paying attention so much to the researches that they do. But there are some ideas, some key ideas that they do mention. The first one is, the article is reminding us that stress is everywhere. And to some, it's getting worse. Again, stress is everywhere. And I'm sure that everyone affirms this. Stress is everywhere right now. Whether it is going shopping, whether it's people coming to your home, or you going someplace. There is a hint of stress, not only of the regular stuff when you're driving, that you have to be paying attention to the road, but now you have to pay attention, what are you going to do once you get there? You know, what are the proper mechanisms? Now, not only you have to be overly cautious on the people who are overly cautious, but also now you have to pay attention to the people who are not paying attention and not being cautious at all. Both streams are bad. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you. Today it is my anniversary. It was a great celebration. Mel and I are very thankful to God for allowing us to have 9 years of marriage. Ups and downs. We have gone from Ohio to New York to Florida. Overall, marriage is a roller coaster. However, it is one of the most beautiful and sustaining and really worth things that I've done in my life. I love being married to my wife. I love the family that we have created. And I continue to pray to God to enable us, for us to always improve in the way that we communicate and in the way that we relate to one another and how we bring our families together. So thank you for the encouragement there. But anyway, as we go back to our lesson today and we see that stress is everywhere, I am reminded of Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30, that says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy burden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This is a text that we can say and affirming that God knows that there is a weight that we carry. Yet, as Christians, God is not putting on us a burden that is heavy to carry, but it's a burden for us to carry with gladness, with joy, as He builds us, as He creates and makes us a new creation. It acknowledges that everyone who works will have something to carry. Yet God is not putting more stress on us, but the yoke, the scripture says the yoke that is around our necks, the duties that we have are light because they are done with love. But also, as I confirm and affirm that stress is everywhere, I'm also a reminder of Matthew 6, verse 27, that says, "And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life?" Oh, by the way, before I continue, I am reading today from the ESV, the English Standard Version. If you want to compare what I'm saying to the scriptures there, obviously you can use any translation that you want. But today, for the purpose of this study, I am using the ESV, the English Standard Version. Now, the English Standard Version in Matthew 6:27 says, "And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour," not a day, but a single hour, "to his span of life?" Who? Nobody. We do not do anything by worrying. We do something by being proactive. And this is what this lesson is about. Is how do we acknowledge stress? How do we acknowledge our anxiety? And how we become proactive? How do we do something? Just going to sleep, just exercising, just eating right, just, it doesn't cut it. There is no easy solution to stress. The first thing is to acknowledge it that exists and that we have been equipped to deal with it. Very important what Matthew 11 and Matthew 6 are sharing with us. It's very important. None of us will add any hour to our life by worrying. However, when we are diligent working, it's a whole different thing. This article, the first article that we're reading, says that it's telling us that stress is our body's natural reaction to changes in our environment that require us to respond or to adjust to our behavior. Again, this article once again is affirming that stress is a natural thing in our lives. We need to remember. However, there is different levels of stress, and we need to make sure that we know what to be the difference. One of the biggest, says the article, one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding stress is that you can't do anything about it. If you're stressed, you can't do anything about it. Yes, you can. This article is showing us that meditation, exercise, eating healthy, not meditation and medication can help you if you have a plan. The thing is that you have to come up with the plan. Now, pay attention to what the book of Job chapter 30, verse 27 says. "My inward parts are in turmoil and never still. The days of affliction come to meet me." Again, the book of Job chapter 30, verse 27 says, "My inward parts are in turmoil." The first thing that the article is talking about is how nutrition, how the things that are happening in our soul that causing our stress can disrupt our healthy belly digestion. both the science and the scriptures are affirming that when something happening to us, our body reacts to it. And our inward parts are in turmoil. When you feel sick, when your stomach feels sick. That is what both of them are saying. So the scriptures affirm that this is a reality. Now, the article says, it turns out that there is a direct correlation between stress and the digestive and nutritional health, often shown by symptoms such as upset stomach, nausea, diarrhea, stomach cramping, and changes in appetite. I have been tested with that. When I'm about to do something, I normally don't eat. My body just gets tight and I'm not hungry. This happens sometimes when I'm going to teach, when I'm about to do preaching, or when I'm about to travel or about something important. My stomach just cramps and I'm not able to eat because my body is reserving energy for something else. This happens. One of the eye-opening things that this article is showing us is that one way that we can prepare to handle our stress is to have a healthy digesting system. Taking care of our belly can help us with our stress. For me, that is huge. I say this is because often the way I personally, as a human being, when I am in situations of stress, I either don't eat or I go to the other part where I eat too much. It happens, both streams happen to me. Sometimes when I'm busy, I can go a day without eating. And sometimes when I'm stressed, I just eat the worst things that are for you. The article is telling us, is teaching us that if we are to be diligent with our stress, we need to have a healthy belly. We need to take care of our belly. And the article shows a few ways to do that. James 1 verse 12 says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive a crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." This particular verse of James 1 verse 22 is telling us that blessed is the person that prepares for the challenge. How are you preparing for the stress of your life? How are you preparing yourself for the task that God has given you? How are you preparing to deal with what is in front of you? Pretty big stuff. The article continues to say, when stress amps up, so when it increases, it causes disruption in the digestive system. So a diet that supports gut health can calm those psychological stress responses. That's page 44, if you are looking at the document. How important is that? Pretty cool, I think. Now, if you go to page 45, it says, sometimes, however, when we are trying to be super healthy, and where we're trying to work out, and where we're trying to take medication to control our stress, we're not just controlling our stress, we overdo it. Too much exercise, too much dieting, too much medication, too much dwelling on your problems, on meditation, and not causing action can be bad for you. The article says this: diet culture often focuses on the idea of reduction, whether it's gluten, sugar, or carbs, or outright fasting. Instead of obsessing over these cuts, however, it is better to focus on health-supporting foods. Many of us want to control our stress by controlling everything in our lives. And stress doesn't work like that. Pay attention, stress or life doesn't work like that. Pay attention to what Isaiah 55 verse 1-3 says. "Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen diligently to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourself in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Hear your souls, may your live. And I will make you an everlasting covenant, my steadfast love, sure loves for David. In here, Isaiah 55 is teaching us that it is not often in our control to get the best thing for us. Just as people want to stress about being healthy and being lean and have a beach body, God is saying, don't worry about those things. Come and buy things without money. Get the real good stuff from me. We often want to control our stress by the intake of medicine. And while medicine helps, that is not the only thing that you should do. You should also eat healthy. You should also sleep. You should also meditate. But all those things are right. But as Christians, we also ought to trust that God will continue to work his miracles in our lives. That's what Isaiah 55 is bringing to us. Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come, buy and eat. It makes no sense if you say, oh yeah, sure, come and eat. You don't have money? That's fine. In this world, that doesn't make sense. Because you have to pay for health. You have to pay for your medicine. You have to pay for being healthy. Yet God is saying, you who have no money, come, buy, eat, dwell. The article continues to say, researchers found that the acute habitual exercise had significant stress to reduce stress because of what activates in our hearts, in our bodies. Stress is something that it is good for us. Exercise is something that is good for us in the right amount. So many of the things that we do when we are exercising are the same things that we feel when we are stressed, without being stressed. Let me explain it like this. When you're lifting weights, your heart is pounding, your blood is rushing, you are thinking only about moving that weight around with a goal. In a way, stress does the same thing. Stress raises our hearts, allows our blood to flow faster. It's supposed to give us the mentality of only accomplishing one thing. The thing is that when you are exercising, you are training your body to deal with the stress of life. Never thought about it. That is pretty cool. The article continues to say and help us to understand that a stress can be a stress reliever unless you are stressed about exercising. It's an oxymoron, really. Stress is good for you until working out exercise is good for you unless you are stressed about exercising. If you're always thinking about, oh, I should go to the gym, oh, I should go to the gym, oh, I should be working out, then the thing that should give you a release is actually adding stress in your life. Then the article moves to talk about finances. The article says that money was a dominant stressor for 44% of Americans. I don't think you need an article to tell you that Americans are always stressed about money. And it says that almost half of Americans, almost 1 in 2 people are always stressing about money. Now, remember what 1 Timothy 6:10 says. While many of us stress about money, Many of us stress about money because of our love for money. And 1 Timothy 6:10 says, the root of all evil is the love for money. If you are stressing today because you need money to survive, that's one thing. If you are stressing in this life about money because you like to have money, you think money gives you power, you think money gives you safety and comfort, you are dealing with money in the wrong way. In this part of the article, one of the biggest things that I got from it is that we should not, as human beings, and especially as Christians, we should not get our value as humans from the amount of money that we have or the amount of money that we can give. Our value as human beings, as Christians, is not connected to how much money we can do, how much money we can make, or how much money we can have. We also cannot consider the accumulation of money as a purpose of life because of what the stress that brings in our lives. The article is also mentioning how many Americans and many people in the world cannot afford being healthy. If being healthy, eating healthy, exercising, it is good for your soul and how you manage stress, some people who are struggling with money cannot worry about being healthy. The love for money is a root of all evil. However, the text acknowledges that money is necessary as a tool to survive. But we need to consider that the quest for searching money, we can get lost in the search to acquire money if we don't see money as an instrument, but rather than the goal, but as the goal. That's what 1 Timothy 6:10 is teaching us. Now, the last part of the article, of this first article that we were reading, finding balance. It's if you worry too much about eating healthy, you're creating stress. And eating healthy is not going to be helping you. If exercising is good until exercising is giving you stress. Money is good as it resolves and takes care of a lot of problems, but it is not good when the only thing you're stressing about is about acquiring and manipulating money. There needs to be a balance on desires. Just like there needs to be a balance in our faith. It is not enough for us to simply pray over things. Often, we have the ability to continue moving and improving our own lives. Sometimes we pray for God to solve all of our problems. When in fact, God is empowering us and giving us the talents and the relationships and the friendships for us to take care of our problems. Prayer is not simply God coming down from heaven and fixing your problem. Prayer is empowering ourselves, changing our hearts, our souls, to be the answer that we often need. Remember, God chose us to be valuable members of the body of Christ here on earth. So that means that God has given us that ability for us to be the solution that sometimes we need. And it is in the power of the Holy Spirit that we are empowered. The last one is mindfulness and meditation. A lot of doctors are telling you that meditation helps you. But meditation can go into several different areas. Only one of them, out of the multiple ways of practicing meditation, only one of them is Christian. And it's not that you're only supposed to be practicing Christian meditation just because you're a Christian. What I would like to tell you is that it's the most effective one. There's a lot of things that you can do. A lot of people will say that yoga is evil, because of where it comes from and how it's effective. I know Christians who have found yoga very helpful to manage their stress. There needs to be a balance. And I'm not pro yoga or I'm not against yoga. I'm just saying that we need to find what works for us and as we project the love of God in our lives. Either way, whether you want to help yourself with meditation outside of Christianity or whether you are only dwelling meditation in the hope of the Holy Spirit, one or the other, I want you to remember what Exodus 14:14 says. The Lord will fight for you. You only have to become silent. Again, Exodus 14:14 says, I will fight for you, the Lord says. You only have to be silent. That's what meditation does. We need to allow ourselves to acknowledge that God is king, that God is at work, and we need to remain silent, waiting patiently for the answer. The no, the yes, the maybe, or soon. There are all possibilities of answers. Now, moving into our second article. I know the first article was kind of long. If you're watching, if you have questions about the first article or anything of the things that I said, just leave me a comment. I'm watching the comments here on the screen, and I will be able to comment on anything. Now, going back to the subject of handling of stress. We're going to go into or diving into an article called Simple Ways to Manage Your Mood. Page 48 of our article guide. The tagline is, a few key changes to your daily routine can help you diffuse the chaos of work and life. The article begins saying that stress is a direct result of the negative emotions that are out of control. Again, stress is a direct result of a negative emotion that is out of control. That's a good way to begin the article. I agree. Stress is when your feelings are out of control and you're not affirming that stress is always going to be there. But when you are letting that stress, those ideas control your life rather than you controlling them, that's when you start experiencing stress. This article is asking us to make the difference between acute stress and chronic stress. We need to know the difference. Some people will say that acute stress is the one thing that wakes you up in the morning when you're late for work. Chronic stress is always believing that you're always late and people are always judging you because you're late. There is a huge difference. The stress that you experience from being late versus the stress that you always feel when you feel people hate you when you are late. Two different things. The article is good to tell us that we cannot allow ourselves to pay attention so much to our chronic stress. The stress that we feel when we feel that others are feeling that about ourselves. When we are taking the stress too much, too far. Obviously, if you are too many times late to work, you might get fired. That's not stress. That's nothing you can do. That's you waking up earlier. We need to pay attention to our intention and what actions can we do. Pay attention to Proverbs 24, verse 10. As we pay attention to our intention. Proverbs 24:10 says, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Kind of rush, really. Kind of harsh. That text in Proverbs 24 says, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. I take that as we need to be paying attention how we are preparing ourselves for the day of challenge, for the day of concern. We need to be able, as human beings, because God has formed us and created us and have put so much of His Spirit in us, we need to be able to prepare for the day of adversity. We need to acknowledge that there are days of fat cows and there are days of skinny cows. That's the Old Testament story of the dream of there are good days and there are bad days. In the good days, you're not simply to enjoy them. You need to be paying attention and exercising and preparing, planning for the days that are going to be hard. In the day of my marriage, the celebration of my anniversary, number 9, I am aware that I need to remember the good days. I need to write and celebrate the big days because they are days of us that are going to be difficult. And it's not that I'm being pessimistic or even realistic. It's that this is part of life. Not everything in marriage is happy. And you cannot and you should not just simply walk away from a relationship of a covenant simply because it got difficult. Obviously, there are limits on that. But we need to prepare. In the days of celebration, we need to prepare and hold things dearly to our hearts so we can prepare for the difficult days. That's what Proverbs 24 verse 10 says. You need to become strong because you will face days of challenge. One of the first things that this article, Simple Ways to Manage Your Mood, is talking about, page 49, which you can find in our website, fpceustis.com/education. And there you will be able to find the documents for today. In page 49, it's called Set Realistic Expectations. And in here, he's telling us how we always want more and we are never paying attention to the reality of our lives. In here, this is what the article says. We live in an era of the upgrade. We are constantly looking for something bigger and better in every aspect of our lives. And that automatically sets us to failure, according to the writer, to Hall, which is a researcher. I wonder what you think. Is always expecting the best and upgrading and upgrading and upgrading and upgrading setting us for failure? I think so. I think that there is room for improvement. Improvement is not upgrade. Upgrade is simply just turning a key or a knob and hoping for things to just get better. There are two things here, and I hope that you see them. How improving is different than an upgrade. Improving is changing little by little, gradually. Upgrade is just taking the jump, going from one relationship to the other. Getting a divorce because you think that the next person might be better. It sets us for failure. Stressing about a car, thinking that the upgrade on a new car will make you happy. That sets us for failure. Pay attention to what Hebrews 13:5-6 says. Hebrews 13, chapter 5 and 6. Keep your life free from love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, God has said, I will never leave you, nor forsake you. So we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? Hebrews 13 talks about the necessity, our urges is to always upgrade without being prepared to upgrade. I think we need to be paying attention to improving every day. I need to be a better pastor every day. I need to be a better husband every day. I need to be a better father every day. I need to be a better friend every day. but I'm simply not upgrading my relationships or my church or my whatever. I need to be improving with the people next to me. So in my example, I simply cannot just go get a new wife to get an upgrade. That's very unfaithful. What I need to be doing is improving my marriage by improving myself, by improving the way that I deal with my issues or my challenges. There's a vast difference. Proverbs 24, Hebrews 13 are talking about how we need to prepare for the challenge and how we are simply not to upgrade, but to improve constantly. Now, if you continue reading the article on page 49, you will see some things that you ought to do to simply manage your mood. It tells you to pay attention to your expectations. You need to find a confidant, a person that is able to listen to you and be a good source of knowledge. I myself, I have a coach. I have a spiritual coach or a mentor. It's a person that talks to me every 2 weeks or so, and we talked at length at things that are happening in my life, and we talk about anything and anybody. And it's about him listening to me, and then him making recommendations and making me ask the difficult questions. We all need someone to do that. It's part of our training. So today, not only pray, but find a person that can be your confidant. It can be me. It can be a person that worships with you next to you. Being a pastor doesn't give me the title to always being the confidant. Perhaps you have already one. Someone that listens to you and always cares the better for you. If you don't have one today, I will make the recommendation. You can reach out to me and we can begin to talk about finding you or being that person for you. Another thing that they are talking about is, besides paying attention to your expectations, paying attention to who do you talk to and how you talk to, they are always making a recommendation that for you to write things down, for you to seek peace and love, and for you to change your mindset. If you want to know more of those, please go to the article, Simple Ways to Manage Your Mood, page 49, and it will be a good read. Additionally to what things that you can do to handle your stress today, you find the article on page 50, a four-legged source of relief. In here, they're talking about a couple who deals with the possibilities of PTSD, anxiousness that is not controllably easy, stress. So they have found peace and comfort in their pets, which have become more like the person walking alongside. They are no longer pets. They are valuable members of the family. In here, you have to pay attention to 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Again, for God gave us a spirit of not fear, but of power, love, and self-control. This is teaching us that we are able to control our life in the name of God. And we are able to do it in several ways. There is not only one way. Stress sometimes is too much. Anxiety sometimes is too much. The whole idea that God will never give you something that you cannot handle is true only when you are able to deal with it. Sounds silly. But God has given you the ability to manage things. And sometimes you need to outsource the ways to help you. In here it says that Bella is a certified dog service dog in two ways. As a medical alert dog For Valerie's migraines, the dog is able to feel the migraines when they're coming, and it goes approaching and gives some comfort. And also a psychiatric service dog for her agoraphobia, which is the struggle of leaving the house or going to places without the comfort. So the pet has become not simply a pet, but a person, part of creation that walks alongside Valerie. And you will see the story of how they were able to meet, and they were able to walk down the aisle with anxiety, and it became an integral part of her wedding and on her life. The idea of creation is that we have dominion over creation, and we have dominion also over our lives because of God. And we need to remember that. You can take control of your life today with the help of the Holy Spirit. And there are more than one way. You just need to find and search the one. You cannot simply pray for salvation without doing anything. You need to pray and paddle of sorts. You can pay attention to Genesis 1 and 2, going back to our sermon series on that, to know that each day of creation is important as it gives us the authority to know more about ourselves. God has given us dominion over all parts of creation, and also has given us the ability to exercise some kind of dominion over our life in the power of the Holy Spirit. Not dominion of self simply controlling our lives. I think our lives sometimes take so many spinnings that we just sometimes spin out of control. But if we hold tight into our faith, that's a whole different thing. The article at the end of page 52 says this: while seeking legitimate mental health therapy is always best option for comprehensive treatment, a recent study done at the University of British Columbia found a simple action that could ease stress levels for students. The key part of this paragraph is, while seeking legitimate mental health, therapy is always the best option for comprehensive, keyword, comprehensive treatment. That means that you need to have good sleep, good health nutrition, good friendships, stability, physically and emotionally. You need to find other ways. All those things are comprehensive treatment. There is not a magic bullet. It is not just, I'm just going to take this pill and deal with the stress. No. I'm just going to drink this shot of whatever poison you're drinking, and that's going to be, poison, meaning, liquor. If we try to find an easy solution to our stress, we are going to do a bigger damage. This is how much what I have learned from these articles. There's always needs to be a comprehensive treatment plan. Our physical, our mental, and our spiritual parts of our body need to take care. They need to improve, all of them at the same time. But you begin with a small step, and it's a process. There is no magic bullet for anything. There is not a magic bullet for love. There is not a magic bullet for losing weight. There is not a magic bullet for the good work. There is not a magic bullet for anything. But they are always can come with a comprehensive plan where you are taking care of all these elements. Mindfulness, balance is how we begin to handle our stress. A balance. It's not simply withdrawing from the stress, it is finding a balance within our stress. What are some of the things that we can do? At the end of page 53, in this article, it says, today, any pet owner can go online and buy a vest for a dog to pass it off as a service animal to gain access to restaurants, hotels, and places of business. It is sad. That's the other part of the reality. There's people who are trying to deal with stress, and there are others who are completely all about them. There's a lot of people who take medication to deal with their stress. There's other people who take the same kind of medication as a recreational drug. In here, Romans 12:2 says this. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you might discern what it is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Do not behave like this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind and by testing of your discernment. If you are feeling stressed today, the best thing I can help you is that there are different areas that you need to be tapping. Not only the spiritual, not only the physical, not only the mental. If we are going to seriously handle our stress, you need to be talking to your doctor, to your partner, to your friend, to your minister, to your co-workers, to the people around you, to your neighbors. To handle stress, we need to come up with a comprehensive plan. Testing everything. Now, the last part of our study today, and perhaps my favorite part of these articles, is found on page 54. It's called Embracing the Pressure, Handling of Stress. The tagline of this article says, stress isn't all bad. Sometimes a threatened situation can be transformed into an opportunity for success. How you handle the stress can propel you to improve yourselves. You can see this, for example, in the book of Acts. It was not only until the early church, the disciples, started being persecuted and dealing with the stress of being persecuted, that they went out into the world. For so many churches, it took a pandemic such as this for them to start preaching and doing studies and putting their services online to serve a community that doesn't come to church. See, often the organization of the church was always caring for the people who were coming to their buildings. Now, the church was forced to be the church without the building. That meaning reaching out to the people who are out there. And now more than ever, I see ministers preaching. And I see churches preaching. And I see people sharing. Some of you might take time to start commenting always on your political views. Some of us use Facebook to transmit something else. I think that we need to make sure that we are embracing the pressure for the right reasons. This article is making me remember some of the first articles in our study in week 1. It says, it is not that you need to invite stress in your life, but you need to welcome. There's a whole difference between inviting and welcoming. Inviting stress is you jumping in stressful situations just for the sake of jumping in them. Welcoming is when stress is knocking at your door and you says, come in, let me handle you. Let me take care of you. That is what this idea is pushing me. The article on page 56 says, to protect your health and happiness, the thinking goes, your number one priority should be to shut down the stress response. Meaning, you need to just walk away from everything that is giving you stress in your life. This article is saying that's wrong. While the stress response can be harmful in some circumstances, there is also much appreciate rather than fearing it if you can learn to harness and support resilience. A bit confusing, but this is what he's saying. If you're able to welcome stress, not just go into a stress situation, invite yourself into those, but if you're able to welcome stress in your life, you will adapt and learn how to deal with the stress. If you are simply walking away from all stress situations, you are crippling yourself. If you learn to adapt, if you learn to manage the stress, if you go into these situations with the mindset that you are going to overcome them, and you have practiced to overcome them, that's a whole different thing. In a way, this is where the catchphrase goes. It says, don't tell God how big your problems. Tell your problems how big your God is. I don't know who said it, but those words have been inscribed in my heart. I deal with stress head on. If I am stressed, then I need to start working into the things that are giving me stress, so I don't have to think about them anymore. I don't know how you handle stress, but I like to tackle my stress. It requires work, requires energy. But my question is to you. That is what I do. I wonder what you do. Have you ever come up with a plan on how you're going to handle the stress of the everyday life? I think that is part of the solution. Page 57, which is the last page of our study, says, psychologists found that the most important factor in determining your response to pressure is how you think about your ability to handle it. How can you better handle stress? Is by making a plan about how you're going to handle that stress. Well, I don't know what kind of stress I'm going to deal with it. Okay, well, plan. This is why firefighters, police officers, first responders, doctors, nurses, people practice. There is always something coming up we have never thought about, but the best thing that we can do is to practice. At the end of this article, it says, you can apply this strategy in your own life anytime you notice a sign of stress popping up. When you feel your heart pounding or your breath quickening, realize that this is your body way of trying to give you more energy. So one of the first things that this article is also telling us is that we need to learn how our body reacts to stress. If we feel the stress coming up and bubbling up, we need to prepare because the body is already feeling something, is giving us warnings. So we need to go into action. If our heart is racing, we cannot just simply shut down. We need to go racing with the heart. One of the things is that when you start feeling stress and you feel something bubbling in your life, you need to start praying. Prayer is doing something. It's enabling you. Growing up, I was taught that when I woke up in the middle of the night and I would be scared, I should be going into prayer. I should be considering prayer as an attitude, as an action. That is my recommendation to you. When you are in moments of stress situations, don't be afraid. Instead, pray. Prayer changes things. It changes us. It's through prayer that God equips us to deal with what's happening in our lives. Now, let me finish with this. Last paragraph of page 57. Whatever the sensation of stress are, worry less about trying to make them go away. and focus more on what you are going to do with the energy, strength, and drive that stress gives you. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. It's what you're going to be doing with what you feel. If you just dwell in your feelings, you're not doing anything. This article, the text, the scriptures are always encouraging us to go into action to what we believe. Don't tell me what you believe. Show me what you believe. Faith in action is a thing. When we say that our faith can move mountains, remember, faith can move them, but your feelings can create them. Your stress, if you don't handle your stress, it's going to become into anxiety. And anxiety will give you a whole array of problems. The best way to handle your stress is by tackling your stress. That is what I have learned from these articles. That is what I have learned from God. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a spirit to conquer our fears by the power and mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I hope that you're finding these studies helpful. I am finding them helpful because it's making me think and it's making me research and how vast truly the scriptures are in dealing with stress and anxiety. So if today you're battling with anxiety or stress, one of my biggest recommendations is for you to read the Bible. For you to dwell and meditate in the Word of God and how God is challenging you and giving you the tools necessary for you to overcome your stress. Why? Because God has not given you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and mercy as you reflect the love of God. Church, that is all for today. This video will be posted on our Facebook, obviously, and on our church website for a little review. The articles are also there on our church website. If there's anything else, please email me. I will try to catch up to my emails soon. Church, that is all for today. Until I see you next time, be blessed.